there's no really anyone better to talk about this than Christian Hammond. He is the director of the Center for Advancing Safety of Machine Intelligence. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with me. First question, you hear this letter, and certainly that word extinction catches our attention, a letter signed by people who work for OpenAI, Google, Microsoft. When you hear the word extinction, is that overdramatic, or is that the right type of language we should be using to talk about this situation?
Well, it's shockingly overdramatic, okay? But we're in a situation right now where, in fact, if you look at the story that you just presented, that's a real present harm. And there's not a lot in the way of thought and regulation around an entire suite of harms, which we know flow from bias systems, systems that are sort of addictive in nature, systems that cause depression, that we understand really well, and no one's moving. And so I think that the thinking was, well, let's up the stakes, and we'll make it, let's worry about the extinction moment. The problem is that it's a distraction. That is that we actually need to take steps to make, say, AI safe. That's it. We need to make it safe. But we need to make it safe in the day-to-day much more than we have to worry about making it safe in terms of us as a species. Because I have to admit, very few people can actually tell you the causal chain that goes from it gets really smart till we die. It's really not there. It's all using a term associated with ChatGPT, it's something of a hallucination.
Yeah, well, it certainly caught our attention as we put that statement back up on the screen there. I think it's interesting that you have tech executives saying that they want regulation. What type of regulation would you like to see, but what's actually realistic to be put in place?
Well, tech executives are looking for regulation, but they won't actually do the things that they need to do right now that they should be regulated to do. So Sam Altman, when he sat in front of Congress, said, "Oh, we have to regulate, and in fact, we should license companies so that we know that they have the right level of expertise." Now, he didn't follow up by saying, "By the way, for example, we're now going to tell you about all of the data that we use to build our systems, and we're going to tell you about what metrics we used for getting rid of toxic content," because that was a very aggressive step. And so they will neither tell us how it was trained, nor will they tell us about how they decide what we're not supposed to see. And we need both of those. Likewise, we're not seeing at this point a real concerted effort to test against bias. We have the obvious test, but we don't have a real effort to take a look at, for example, if ChatGPT generates a job description, is it a job description that is more prone to be picked by a man or a woman, a white person versus African American? We're not doing that kind of testing, and we need to do that kind of testing.
And you're seeing oh, go ahead. I was going to say, kind of to your point, because we've seen, as we've talked about, on the criminal side of it, it's already being used for bad things. Scammers can use it. Frankly, the government doesn't have a great track record when it comes to putting in regulations for big tech, being aggressive with that sector. Do you think the government can pick up speed and maybe push back against some of those things that the tech companies don't want to do, especially if it's something that they believe eventually could lead to, scary words like extinction?
I hope so. The thing I worry, though, about is that we get ourselves stuck in the world of worrying about, Skynet. I feel like the place where we are right now is, imagine you go to a bar with a buddy and that person gets really, really drunk. You want to take their keys away. You don't want to sit and have a long discussion about the dangers of alcoholism and dangers to their body and how it's going to ruin their family, and have everyone in the bar come around and agree with you that there's a long-term danger. You want to take away their keys. And right now we're in a situation like that, where we're being distracted by the long term. and we're not actually taking action on the short. And it's time to actually push really hard to say, no, we actually want to have regulations around systems that can cause depression, systems that can cause online addictions, systems that actually will convince us to do things we don't want to do, systems that are biased. We need regulations against those, and we need them today. I'm less worried about accidentally creating Skynet.
All right, Christian Hammond, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. It is certainly a story that is going to be continuing on as AI continues to have more of an impact on our everyday lives. We appreciate it.